Hello and welcome back to another week of the Embodiment Workshop. It's been a minute, but it's been a minute because Sara has been in tornado? Is it tornado season or is it just the weather? Is it normal for this time of year?
It seems to be normal for this time of year. The last couple of years, it's definitely dramatically shifted. But yeah, it seems to be the common theme these days.
I know. So I'm happy that the internet connection is good today so that we can actually move forward with it. But it's been crazy over there listening to everything that you've been going through.
Yeah, we've had storms literally every day, almost for the past week, actually.
Mm-hmm. So crazy. I don't even think about it. I mean, I'm over here in the desert. So for me, I think earthquakes are probably the biggest thing, but not necessarily storms. We'll get the electric storms sometimes, but that's about it. So whenever you were telling me that like the sirens are going off and everything, I was just like, whoa, I don't even know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When the sirens go off, they're so loud. I mean, they have them strategically placed all around town and they are painted like a cow and they're loud. They alert the entire city. So
very cool. Very cool. I'm glad that you're safe and I'm happy that we're here today.
Thank you.
Okay, so just a real quick recap for everyone. We are working on the embodiment workshop and integrating the embodiment clear. So if you haven't had a chance to go check that out, it is still up and live while we're integrating, and then it will be taken down. So the embodiment clear was sympathy. That was the emotional block that was discovered during that clear with sympathy, and it was in the area of family love. It has been really bringing up a lot of things for a lot of different people. So we'd love to hear your comments. Put those comments below on what you're experiencing here. This week, we are going to be integrating let me go back to last week. So last time, it was all about, we were introducing somatics, and we were introducing the mind and body connection and going deeper into, or not deeper, but deeper into somatics by introducing the channels. This time we're going to focus on the mental channel with this mind and body connection. So I'm really excited about all of these and being able to dive deeper into each one because this is so our jam. We're not very surface people. We like to go right into the nitty-gritty. So it's fun whenever we can take individual things and then really speak on it and teach on it. So
yeah, I love it too. Okay, so as we dive into the mental channel, what I'd really like to just take a few moments to go back to discuss is that we were talking about in our previous video how basically sometimes we're not so good as human beings at purging the energy that is stuck and releasing that energy. But I really wanted to come back and just make it a point to say that really our bodies are so intuitive and our bodies are so amazing at processing this stuck emotion until it's conditioned out of us. So no, we're not taught the tools, but we do come into this world very, very capable of moving these stuck energies. When we think about babies and crying and a little kid will throw a fit. And then, so this is what happens. We start to be conditioned in a way that says that those responses are not okay. And so overall, over time, we begin to repress and then, that charge emotion is just stuck there. And so now we need tools like this in order to move forward. So I'm really excited to talk about the mental channel, the mind, and the ego.
Yeah, I like that you even brought this up because just before we even hopped on, we were having the discussion about how, for those of you that have been following us for a long time and are in the membership, we bring in gene keys and human design and other maps and models into what we use. And it's interesting because Richard Rudd, who is the creator of the gene keys, that's one of the things that he actually talks about is how we are so prehistoric in the knowledge that we have in the body and with the body and what the body is actually capable of. And it really is this system. And we are born like with knowing how to release the charge.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things that we were just talking about as well, we went to a training, and it was interesting how they were talking about completing the action, right? And how it's so important to complete the action. So when we're not able to actually complete the action of, we'll go deeper into this. If we don't go deeper into it here, we'll go deeper into it in the membership. But that idea of completing the action so that the energy that is in motion can actually be expressed from the body, right? And so that it doesn't get trapped in the body. So that's actually what we're talking about here as well, which is really cool. And we're going to go into different channels. In the mind, the mental channel is one of the biggest challenges, I think, for people. I think it's the one that most people are going to be able to resonate with as we start to educate and teach about it. And I think a lot of people are going to go, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, but don't quite realize the mind and body connection with the mental channel. So really excited to dive in.
Yeah, me too. This is where the story comes up.
Yeah. Are you ready? Okay. Whoops. I'm like, whoops, there we go. All right. So somatics with the mental channel.
Okay, so mentality, the mind, and again, this is also what we would consider the ego. We spend the most time in the mental channel. This is the channel where we are intaking information at the cognitive level and where our unconscious belief systems exist. So we're talking our unconscious beliefs about love, our unconscious beliefs about money, and then even things like dogma. So this channel helps to identify the stuck or stored charge to process and digest. And so the intention with working with the channels of human awareness is to move the information that is received cognitively into the felt sensations of the body. So we're starting with the mind, the mental, and where the story arises, and moving that into the body so that we can actually process the charge. It's a really beautiful, beautiful process.
Yeah, I don't really have. I remember whenever we were first learning about this, and this is how, if you're in the membership, you hear us talk a lot about the ecosystem and how our environment is actually this ecosystem. So the mental body, the mind is actually the first thing that begins. Like, this is the origination, right? of processing our environment and our ecosystem. So excited to move on to more.
Well, yeah. And one thing that I'd like to share is when I first started to really dive deeply into this work, the way the mental channel showed up for me was within an exercise or a process in which I was taught to listen to the stories that I was hearing or the voices that I was hearing, and then navigating my own beliefs as compared to the voices of, like, I would hear my grandmother, or I would hear my mother's voice, or I would hear my father's voice, and then start to weigh if those stories were true for me or not. So that's one way to really easily tap into the mental channel. Moving on to just a little bit more about the mental body. So when we're describing an experience, we can recognize charge in the system and sense the activation of fight, flight, freeze. So we're looking at things like, am I ready to actually fight? Am I ready to run, or am I frozen and I can't move? I'm in contraction. Is my heart beating fast? There's, so many different ways to recognize fight, flight, freeze. And this is where the story, again, coming back to the story, arises. The mind will draw conclusions It makes explanations and creates a story using logic, patterns, and experiences to decipher an outcome. So basically, once we have had the experience, our bodies are going to continue until we have, made that completion. We have been able to fully expel it. We're going to continue to draw all of these patterns and conclusions. Our nervous system is going to react as if these things are happening again and again and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I always like to speak about how the mental body is a processor. It's literally how we filter in the information from our environment, our situation, what just happened. And it is using all of the senses of the body in order to filter that. And then the mind, so you think about like this big cone, right? Like a funnel, like a funnel. And all of this stuff is getting dumped into this funnel. And then what comes out the other end is very simplified logic, patterns, experiences, stories, right? It creates this story on what just barely happened. So, and an explanation, right? And so I always say the mental body is our processor. And it literally filters in everything. But then the story that you're talking about here is just the conclusion of what happened. And this is where it starts to play some tricks on us. So I'm excited to go more into this.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so mental body and the story. So if we want to digest charged energy, story is not the answer. It can be said that if telling the story was going to make you feel better, it would have done so by now. So learning to access the wisdom of other channels and releasing the mental story, we come back to the body, and this helps to release the emotional charge around the story. So if you notice, whenever you're telling a story about what happened, that charge can begin to build and build and build and build. And suddenly you're not just telling the story, you're actually feeling the emotion. You're actually angry, or you're actually feeling anxiety, or you're actually sad, or hopefully you're actually happy, depending on what the experience was that you're telling the story about. So it's really important to notice as you're telling the story, where is the charge? Where are you feeling it in the body? What emotions are coming up? Because this is where you're going to be able to start to access the other channels so that you can complete all of the trauma cycle.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the mental body and that story, right? This is where we can start. If we keep it up here, this is where we can start to just spin, and we don't really get anywhere. So that's kind of what this mental body is. It's also when you were talking about it activating that fight, flight, freeze response. Mm-hmm. That is where we can really tell where we are with our healing when that is activated, and we do have to, we do start to feel those feelings. So feeling those in the body, that's whenever the chemicals start to get released into the body for that fight, flight, freeze. Like, what is the body going to do? And then I really enjoy, I had it and I just barely lost it. Oh, yeah, this part. As you were talking about it, it's this part about the story. And it can be said that if the story was going to make you feel better, it would have done so by now, right? Mm-hmm. Something that happens with the brain and with the mental body is that when we do tell a story and we're coming from an unhealed space or a traumatic space, then it actually re-triggers all of those activations, all of the chemicals being flooded into the body. And this is why talk therapy didn't necessarily ever really work well for me. I know it works really well for some people, but for me, it always put me into that heightened state, that stress state, because I wasn't actually healing the trauma with the work that we were doing together. What it would do is it would start to release all of that, because my mind didn't know that I wasn't in that situation anymore.
Right.
And so, yeah, so as I've dove deeper into this type of work, and we're able to actually tell the story from a different place, from a healed space, then we're not recreating that story in our mind, and those chemicals aren't actually going into the body. So a thing that I like to actually share with people is that you really do start to understand where you are on your healing journey by how you are feeling with that. And is it triggering that fight, flight, freeze as you're sharing an experience, or you're telling the story, or are you feeling calm, cool, and collected, and sovereign, and centered, and grounded, and in that way, you can easily tell. This is one of the easiest and quickest ways to be able to tell that. So,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay, so thoughts create emotions, and emotion creates thoughts. And I really love this. So positive thinking only works when you can create the feeling in the body. The mental channel is helpful in changing the emotional state only when you are in a place of calm and receptivity. So your parasympathetic nervous system is activated. You're feeling like you're in receiving mode. You're calm. You're calm, cool, and collected, basically. And this really, what came to mind for me when I was moving through this process is affirmations. So we can say, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself all day long. But as long as we're not in a place of calm and receptivity, it's never going to work. The positive, we're basically just bypassing. So we need to really be in a place of receptivity. This can be accomplished by using the other body channels to amplify the thought to the body. So this is where, again, we get to start to access the other channels. So some things that we can ask ourselves is, what is the story we are telling ourselves? Is it true? And how can we create a new one? So we're creating some new neural pathways here with the mental body.
I love this part about saying that it only works when you can create the feeling in the body, because I am also someone that affirmations never worked for me. I could sit there and say, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself all day long. And did I really feel that? No. But it is when you can actually feel that in the body, and you're looking at, they say that a lot of times. So look at yourself in the mirror and you actually talk to yourself like you're another person, because then you can actually start to begin to feel that in the body. And that was life-changing for me. That was something that was totally different, because I sat there and thought, well, something's wrong with me because it's working for everybody else that's not working for me. And then I did that little twist and went, okay, I'm actually going to feel this. And then now that was life-changing for me. So I don't know how affirmations were with you, but I've heard that a lot with a lot of other people too, that they're just going, I thought something was wrong with me because it wasn't working.
No, exactly. I had the exact same experience, and I would say that generally speaking, that's the majority of people's experience until they do learn how to really lean into that place of receptivity. And that in and of itself is an art. And the other thing that I'd like to say here is, as we really get into this aspect of the mental body, this is where we can begin to create from. We create from this place. And so we can create those things that are positive when we're in a place of receptivity, when our parasympathetic nervous system is activated. And whereas we will create the exact opposite. And again, when the affirmations aren't working, we're creating the exact opposite feeling. So a really good place to start as far as, creation.
Thoughts are literally our seed. It's the seed that we're planting, and you're right. This is exactly where we start to create from. And so whenever we bring this into our awareness And we now know this. We're like, okay, so this is the seed of which way is it going to go? Like, we have the opportunity right now in this moment by even understanding that we're having a thought or creating that story. I love that a lot of times people, with the work that we do, people really do need to know what is the difference between story and truth, and then also what's the difference between story and belief too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it all starts with the thought. That thought, which way do you want it to go? Which way do you want it to end up? Mm-hmm. I'm actually, do we need to look at this anymore?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So there's something that I'm doing right now. I'm actually contemplating in my own personal work with the gene keys. And there's one, gene key 6. And Richard Rudd gives a challenge in gene key 6. And he says to do this challenge with the thought, because he says thought is pure. Like, the whole contemplation is keeping the thoughts pure. And so he gives this challenge with, try to go 1 minute without a negative thought, because we don't know, right? It's all unconscious until we bring it into our awareness and we make it conscious. So he says, try to go 1 minute without a negative thought. And you'd be surprised at how many negative thoughts, even if you have an amazing, awesome, positive mindset, and you're like, I don't have issues with this, you would be amazed at what kind of rises, because that's the mental mind's job, right? Is to kind of put a little bit of fear in and protect. But then he says, okay, now go 5 minutes. Okay, now go 15 minutes. Okay, now go 30 minutes. Now go an hour. And then now you finally build yourself up to where you go a day. And I would love to know the people that are actually literally going an entire day without having a conscious negative thought. Because, whoa, when it's in your face like that, you go, oh, yeah, I see how many weeds are planted.
Yeah, it can be so incredibly revealing when you really, really start to pay attention to the mental mind and this channel. Because, when you're talking about how many negative thoughts we're actually having per day, and that's what the ego wants to grab onto. And then from that place, the story gets created and it grows and grows and grows. So I would love to challenge anybody here to practice this and see if you can actually catch the positive thoughts, and then let that seed take be planted and then take roots. That's what I'm trying to say.
I actually like that. I like switching that up from the negative to the positive. Because then if you're focused on the positive, then that's you actually, whatever we're focused on is actually what actually gets created. So right. Yeah, where the energy flows, right? Okay, what is it called? Where the focus is, where the focus flows, the energy flows. Wait, how does it go?
Focus goes, energy flows. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I write this I'm not sure of the exact quote or phrase.
I know. Okay. All right. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to speak to on this?
No, I feel complete, and I really just love working through it and teaching about these 5 body channels.
Yeah, they're pretty. I'm just excited for the next ones. All right. So thank you for sharing your time and energy with us. We know you could be in a million other places, so thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this and you feel as if this could benefit someone else, we invite you to share it. We invite you to like it, because if you like it, then we know that you like the content. We'll continue to create more of this. And then if you're actually part of the workshop, subscribe so that you can get a notification for when the next video is released. And then also, if you're interested in diving more, we invite you to come and check out Red Lotus Life membership. This is where we go deep, deep, deep into all of our tools, all of the modalities, and really begin to unweave and create what we're talking about here with the new neural pathways and a new way of being, and create this life after abuse that you love. And then that's with the link below. You can check out all the information there. So until next time, hopefully the tornadoes will calm down and we'll be here next week.
Yes, definitely setting that intention because I'm really excited to introduce the next channel.
Yeah, me too. Do you know what it's going to be?
I am pretty sure we're going to go into imagination next.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, everyone, have an incredible rest of your day, and we will talk soon. Bye.
Bye.
And live your life today.